What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some things that you will need to add to your game to play wide receiver at the Division One level. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we're going to be traveling out to 7 more states this year for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. The next 3 states we will be going to: Boston, Cleveland, and Austin. All 3 of those camps are completely sold out, but then we'll be heading out to Seattle, Washington, Newark, New Jersey, Denver, Colorado, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys would like to get some work in with us when we are in a state near you, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season camps, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So now, first thing I want to talk about here, when you're playing at the next level, what also elevates? Obviously, every single wide receiver that plays at the Division I level, collegiate level, has some talent, but the other position that gets better and gets faster, gets bigger, is this DB position. So what you have to be able to do is run something I call a quarterback-friendly route, and that goes for every single route. You have to give the quarterback space to be able to throw you open, because your skills are going to elevate, DB skills are going to elevate, but you're also going to be playing with some very, very talented quarterbacks that can do something called throwing you open. And by throwing you open as a wide receiver, that means you have to give the quarterback space to throw you open, and that's what we're going to talk about with this first example. So what this wide receiver is running is he is running a 10-yard out route versus inside shade press coverage. So DB, when he's inside shade, I'm going to play this full speed, then we'll break it down. So this wide receiver attacks the DB's leverage. He breaks up on this 10-yard out, but he gives the quarterback room to throw this wide receiver open. Because again, this is a tight throwing window. So if I run a route that doesn't, AKA, get skinny, I'm not going to be able to have as many opportunities from a quarterback because he doesn't trust that I'm going to give him space. So let's talk about how to do that. So coming up to the line of scrimmage pre-snap, we see that this DB is lined up inside shade press. That means that he is trying to prevent an inside route. He does not want us to run a slant, a post, a dig. He wants to force everything to the sideline because the sideline is another defender on the field. The sideline, if you run out of bounds as a wide receiver, that's not doing you any good. So what we have to do with my release and what this wide receiver does is he attacks him to the inside. He threatens him. Now, a lot of wide receivers know to do that. A lot of wide receivers know, okay, I'm going to attack his leverage. But after the fact, what they do is they run away from the DB. They try to avoid contact as much as possible. They take this really wide angle until they get up to the break point, and then they cut. But here's the problem with that. You're not leaving yourself enough space to, 1, accelerate out of the break, but 2, for the quarterback to throw you open. We have to get skinny. And getting skinny is after your release, you want to try to get hip to hip with the DB. You almost want to lean. You almost want to dip your shoulder and get right into this DB's frame. So at the break point, when I make this hard cut, not only can I maybe lean into the DB, maybe I stack him, maybe I kind of get my upper body leaning into him to get some more separation at the cut, I'm giving the quarterback room. Because the quarterback knows when to throw it. He's going to anticipate it. He knows the break is at 10 yards, so he's going to be letting this thing go when you're at about 8 yards, or starting his throw when you're at about 8 yards. But we have to give him room. And running quarterback-friendly routes, especially when the coverage is tighter at that next level, is how you guys can honestly create more separation and allow that quarterback to throw you and get you more receptions. So let's talk about another scenario here, because this is an outside breaking route versus inside shade press. Now, what's a quarterback friendly route when you have to run an inside breaking route versus inside shade press? And it would honestly be the exact same thing. Because think about this. If you had to run, let's say it was a post route, inside shade press, you would want to treat it the exact same way. You would attack his leverage. You'd take an outside release here. You would push up vertical, but you would want to get skinny. Because if you're super wide, let's say you're running a post, you took an outside release and you have this big gap between you and the DB. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to try to cut under him and he's going to have space to recover and you're not going to create space. You want to stay hip to hip with this DB because at the break point, what could you do? You could either work to stack, give a move and break, or you could take your inside arm, put it on his outside shoulder, outside hip and slip under. Now you have spacing on the play. The spacing of the play is correct, and that quarterback has room to actually throw you the ball. So many wide receivers will force it. They'll have this inside shade press look. They have to run a post route, and they'll try to fake outside, cut inside, and run the post. That DB, if he's disciplined, which at the next level, especially the Division One level, all DBs are going to have some talent and are going to be disciplined. He is taught to keep his leverage at all costs. So you try to force it, he's going to get hands, he reroutes you, you break on the post, but in a real game scenario, you got other receivers on the field. You got maybe a slot wide receiver running like a choice route. You got a backside wide receiver running a dig. And if you're running into those routes, one defender can cover three guys, and that's not a quarterback-friendly route. So fellas, to be able to play at that next level, you have to run quarterback-friendly routes, and you do that by getting skinny and giving that quarterback room, but also keeping spacing on the play. Okay, so now, next thing that you need, honestly, fellas, to be able to play at the next level, and I wanted to make sure I included this in this video, is speed. And if you don't have speed, you're probably not going to be able to match up against some of these top tier DBs in the country. Now, I assume a lot of you, have dreams and aspirations of playing college football, whether that's at the Division I level, whether that's just at any level of college football from NAIA all the way up. Some of you just want your school paid for. Some of you just want to keep playing football for as long as you can. And that's fine. But to play at the next level, you need some type of speed. And these Division I guys is a 5-star wide receiver out of Tyler, Texas. I want you to watch the difference between him and between a scout team player. And this is the difference between that D1 guy and that guy who maybe doesn't end up playing college football. So let's play at full speed. He just comes off the ball, and just simply the speed difference is just such a huge gap in the speed that these guys need to be able to play at that D1 level. Now, some of you might ask, well, that's great and all, but what if I need to get faster? How do I actually improve that? How do I actually work on my speed to get to that collegiate level of speed? And there are a few things that you can do. So number one, I think everybody knows this too, just training with some resistance, right? Whether you're running up hills, whether you're running with a sled, whether you're running with a parachute, all of those things can help you get faster and help increase your top speed, your explosion, etc. Now, in the gym, there are also wide receivers are one of those positions where you have to train like an athlete, right? For it to translate on the field. You have to work on explosive movements in the gym, like box jumps, any type of plyometric, any type of, explosive Olympic lift that are going to activate those fast twitch fibers, right? Because when you're working out, the food for thought for you. You have two types of muscle fibers. You have slow twitch fibers, then you have fast twitch fibers. Slow twitch fibers are what let's say a soccer player uses because they're constantly jogging, right? They're running laps. So if you're a football player and you're a receiver, for training cardio wise, you probably shouldn't be running laps around a track. You probably shouldn't go out and run 20 laps. You should probably go out and run 10 sprints and give all out effort, right? So in the gym, to have that translate on the field to activate those fast twitch fibers, those are the lifts that you have to do, like a power clean, box jump. You're trying to be as explosive as possible and give a max effort. That's what will help that speed also increase. And then last but not least, stretching. And if you want a good stretch routine that you guys can do, shoot a comment down below and just say hey, give me a stretch routine, or I need a stretch routine, helping me with speed. I'll send that over to you. It's completely free. And stretching is one of those things that's going to help you open up your stride, open up your hips. And that was one of the most beneficial things that I did for my speed. I was always that guy that trained all the time, sleds, explosive movements, box jumps, all that. And I never got faster until I started stretching and my stride actually opened up. I was actually able to drive my knees. So all of those things you can do as a receiver to help you get faster, and that's what will help you translate to the next level. But I can't make a video about playing at the next level without talking about speed, because I'd be lying to you if you said that you could just be flat out slow and play at the next level. Unless you're extremely tall, you're a very big size wide receiver, but not all of us are built that way. Now imagine if you're a tall, bigger size receiver and you got some speed to you. Right? Those are the types of guys. Those are literally the types of guys that play at the Division I level. They're scary individuals, and they're some of the best athletes in the world. And so if you're going to compete at that level, you need some speed if you're already not that type of size, okay? Now, next thing I want to talk about is being able to make your routes look the same. So the first thing we talked about in this video was how talented DBs are, especially at that Division I level and at any level of college football. They get better. It's not no longer, that JV type DB that you're playing, or some scrub on varsity that you're playing. You're playing talented DBs. And the way you can get separation is by making your routes look the same. It is a mind game. And that is how you can win against a disciplined DB. So let's play this example full speed. This is going to be something called a jerk route. So this looks a lot like a whip route. Now, schematically, this is a play that they have drawn up, right? This is not something that the wide receiver is ad-libbing, but I want to show you why this works. And this is just basic day one deception, but we're going to build off of it. So he comes off here. Like, how would you guys run a whip route versus inside shade press? You'd run it exactly like how you'd run a slant, right? You'd attack the DB's outside shoulder. You would slip underneath them. You put the brakes on. You would drop your hips just like how you would on a whip. You would have the same speed just like you would on a whip, but you throw one jab to the outside. And even your hips and your shoulders are committed to the line of scrimmage, like on a whip route where you just come back to the outside. And you see, all it takes is one little hesitation from that DB and you are open. So again, schematically, this is a play that they've drawn up. But the reason why it works is because it looks the exact same. Just like how a corner and you run a corner post, it looks the exact same at a certain point. Now, as a wide receiver, you can structure that with the releases you do, with the moves you choose at the top of the route to be unpredictable, especially against a disciplined guy. So let's talk about this like specific look. We got like inside shade press, and like let's say, for example, you have to run like a slant. Right? So what you would do is you would maybe like give like a quick jab inside. You burst to the outside for three. Let's start with this. Let's start with this actually. Let's say you're running a fade. Okay, so you have inside shade press, you have to go run a fade. What would you do? You would attack this DB's leverage to the inside. You try to get him to hold his leverage because that's his responsibility. And then you would take off and it'd be a race to the back pylon. And you would look for the ball, right? You'd look for the ball probably pretty early because we're on like the 5-yard line. So now, let's say you had to run a slant. You would attack his leverage inside, maybe a quick jab step. You take off to the outside for 3 hard steps, but maybe on your second and third step, you give your eyes to the quarterback, selling like you're getting that ball over the top. DB commits, and then we slip underneath. They call that a diamond release with like a little peek back move. That is how you guys get separation at the next level, fellas. You have to pair your routes together. You have to make your routes look similar. Just like how in an offensive scheme, they make routes look the same, you have to pair your routes and the moves at the top of the break to look the exact same. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. This is a great example of a jerk route looking exactly like how you would run a whip route. And that is also, when you guys have a double move called, that's how you guys have to think about it. You're running a slant and go. Make it look like that slant. You're running a post corner. You have to make it look exactly like how you would run that post. Those little details matter, especially against a more talented tier DB. Okay, so now, next example I want to talk about here is wide receivers. You have to know how to beat press to play at the next level. I can't tell you how many wide receivers that I'll talk to, that I'll exchange messages with, that'll say, well, coach, I don't got to worry about press because they never press us in high school. They never press us in youth ball, etc. And I get that. And I understand that. And they don't, quite frankly. They don't do it enough, I don't think. But press coverage is something you will 100% of the time see at college level. 100% of the time. I don't mean that by 100% of the time they're going to be down in press, but I 100% guarantee that you're going to see it. You're going to see press coverage, and you got to know how to beat press coverage. And if you go into that situation not knowing how to beat press coverage, guess what? They're probably not going to look your way, and they're probably not going to take you as a wide receiver if you cannot do that. Like, let's say you're a wide receiver, right? And it's about to be like, a college camp season where everybody's going out to different college camps. What do they do at all these college camps? One-on-ones. And what do you see in one-on-ones? Press coverage. So if you're a guy in that setting who's trying to beat press coverage every single rep, but you have zero plan, you don't know how to do it, you're going to look foolish. You're going to be that guy that just gets jammed every time or just tries to run around receivers and you don't look or run around DBs and you don't look calculated. You have to be calculated with the things that you do off the line. So we're going to look at this press release here, and this is one tip that will help all of you guys improve off of press, is stepping outside of the DB's frame, not your frame, outside of the DB's frame. So let's play this full speed. This wide receiver hits this quick crossover move, and you see the amount of separation that he's able to get here. So let's talk about it. Anytime that we are doing press releases, you want to think of it like driving. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, there are 3 lanes. You got the far left lane, you got the middle lane, and you got the far right lane. So if we got a DB who's, let's say, in head-up press like so, and we want him to move to the outside for me to take an inside release, I have to step with my back foot to the far right lane. I actually have to step there. There are a ton of wide receivers out there that do not know how to threaten outside of a DB's frame and maintain balance and maintain explosion. Guys will step, they do all these lateral moves, their feet stay inside their frame, they're trying to move their head and shoulders a whole bunch. That's not going to get you space. You actually have to threaten a DB by threatening him outside of his frame, because nothing looks more like you're running to the outside than stepping to the outside. Am I wrong? Because what a DB is looking at is your hips. And if you step outside the frame and you think like, okay, my hip is attached to my foot. You see how his hip moves the same way the foot moves. His hips and his shoulders are almost turning to the outside as he steps. That is what's going to get a DB to bite. So if you guys can understand that and have a plan for that off the line, that can lead to a ton of separation via press. Now, again, routes are not won and lost off the line. Off the line, you keep timing and you keep spacing, very similar to the quarterback-friendly routes that we were talking about at the beginning of the video. But you have to have a plan, and that plan of action should always be threatening outside his frame. Now, let's say, for example, this guy's head up. That's easy. What if he's inside shade, like in that very first example we talked about? So if we want to get him to hold his inside leverage and move to set me up for the outside release, when he's inside shade, I got to make sure that with my inside foot or wherever, I am actually stepping to the inside lane, because that is what's going to make him move. Now, sometimes a DB's like right up in your face and you're probably not going to be able to, close space, step super far, but you can still threaten. You could still step at him. It's just more of a lateral step, less of a like vertical step, if that makes sense. So fellas, just make sure we're operating outside that DB's frame to create separation when against press, because press is something you will 100% see at that next level. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, we are coming out to 7 more states this offseason for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. Our next 3 camps are completely sold out, but our Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles camps are all available. We'll sell out probably within the next month. So, fellas, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you out to one of our camps. I'll see you guys next time.